Welcome to Heart of Poland, the only show in the entire world which actually takes the time to talk to fascinating people leading fascinating lives in the fascinating country of Poland. And boy, oh boy, I'm so glad I pointed this way and not this way. Boy, oh boy, do we have a fascinating guest today. Dave's Ameryki. David, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. And thanks for calling me fascinating. That's very nice of you.
Well, you'll have to prove your worth, I guess, in the course of this interview. But I have a little
I'll,
sneaky feeling you're going to say some interesting things today.
I'll be extra boring.
Yeah, well, don't worry because my questions are so good that they'll just lift you up into a higher place, dude. America versus Poland, who wins?
I don't even know how to answer that. I guess it depends on what, right? Like if it has to do with partying all night, it's Poland for sure, right? When it comes to, I don't know, friendliness, probably the U.S.
Do you have the same impression I have that actually Polish people are quite friendly if you speak the language?
No. I think Polish people are friendly if you know them. I think they're super friendly. But if you don't know them, no.
Because okay, I'll tell you why. I'll explain why. This is an interesting subject. I was
Mhm,
even going to do a film for YouTube, which is your
mhm,
one of your passions. On the subject that if you're able to speak to Polish people, that you can actually crack through that kind of ostensible coldness or whatever you want, a frigidity that you might see. I
mhm,
mean, it's true you can't walk down the street in a small American town without people saying hello to you, which is
mhm.
discombobulating for someone who spends their time in Poland.
Yeah, yeah.
This was my theory essentially, that actually it's just a thing when you understand the language, which of course you do because you were born in Łódź, if I'm
Yeah,
correct, and
that's right.
came to the US when you're age 5. Let's go back into your backstory a little bit then. Why did your
Mm,
parents decide to move to the US, and do you have any memories of that time? It must have been quite a big shift for
yeah,
you.
yeah. So the reason was communism, and actually, my mom's mom was the first one to go over there because her sister was brought over, and her sister was brought over by someone else. So it's like a chain. It was like the chain. It's like what Trump hates, like the chain immigration. Ah, goddamn Polish people. Oh, sorry. I hope damn isn't a bad word.
Sam's
Uh,
okay.
all right, cool. I'll have to really clean it up here. Those darn Polish people come and taking our jobs, eating all our kielbasa, you know. So yeah, so they were the first ones. She was the first one to come over, and then she brought us later. Like I said, I was a kid. Yeah, I remember a few things. I remember being scared by Baba Yaga. I remember like, someone knock. I remember being a kid, someone knocking on the door, and they're like, "Hi, Baba Yaga's coming. She's gonna take you away." And I was like, and I had to like hide in a closet or something. I don't know why they did that to me. I was a child, but all right. Or like getting like a Switch for Christmas. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, like Ruzga.
A switch is in like something that you would
Yeah, that you
whip,
beat children with, like a
whip.
piece of wood. Yeah.
That was a present.
Yeah, so like I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in the US, if you're bad, they say that Santa Claus will bring you coal, which is a very boring gift, right? But that wouldn't work in Poland because if Santa Claus brought Polish children coal, they would be excited because then they could burn the coal and produce more pollution, more smog, right? I love it over there. So so instead, he brings you a Switch so that your parents can beat you with it because Polish people are hardcore. They don't mess around. So
Dude, this is like a big discovery. I'd never heard of this. I feel a
yeah,
little bit. I've been disprivileged by not being beaten by my mother-in-law, and I think I've probably come close to it a few times. So,
yeah. So no one beat me with it, but I did get it.
how did your parents keep you Polish during that time? You speak Polish with
Uh,
this. Can I call it adorable? Is that okay for you if I call it an adorable accent?
I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I'm not gonna like it, but yeah, sure.
It's kind of cute though, isn't it? Because you've got
Yeah,
this kind of American accent to it, but you also speak, almost perfect Polish. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but
yeah. Thanks.
from time to time you think, what's the word there, or how should I maybe
Mhm.
conjugate that as it? So I'm assuming your parents spoke Polish at home.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Because both my whole family's Polish. When we moved to the U.S., my parents didn't speak English, so it's not like nowadays where people are like, "Oh, I've been learning English for my whole life, but yet I'm still hesitant to speak English." I'm still learning English my whole life, but I'm still hesitant to speak English. And no, it wasn't like that. It was like they didn't know English at all, and they're just like, "I guess we'll move to America." And so I think they were learning at the same time I was learning English. So there's
But
definitely, we did not speak English at
I'm
home.
imagining that you learned a little bit quicker as well, because 5-year-olds are sort of you just need to tell them the word once, and then it's done. Did you integrate well? I mean, what was the schooling system at that age at 5? Is there some kind of kindergarten or preschool that you go to? And
Yeah,
I'm
it
really
was.
interested in the subject of American Polish relations, because the whole American Polish thing is very different to the British Polish thing. The kind of context that I understand, Second World War, the EU, that kind of stuff. It's a very different story. There's those Polish jokes and all that kind of stuff. Did you ever feel picked on or discriminated against because you were the foreign kid?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I grew up in a Polish neighborhood, so there was a lot of Polish kids there. Like where I lived, you could just walk around, you hear people speaking Polish. I went to like a private Catholic school that was attached to a Polish church,
Ah,
right? So we had like Polish mass. The school itself was in English, but it was part of the Polish church, and so there were so many Polish kids there that every day you would smell kielbasa burp. It's just like guaranteed. If someone was eating kielbasa daily, it was just. Um, so yeah, and so because of that, we were like the stupid Polacks. We were go back to Poland or whatever stuff like that. So that was something that I grew up with. So because of that, I don't like that word. I don't like the word Polak, because it's. But I think the problem is that most Americans and probably most Polish people don't know that the way you say Polak in English, the Polish word Polak is Pole. No, like nobody knows that. That almost sounds like stupider than Polak, Pole.
it's of course, it's also the way you say it, isn't it? And the emphasis on the the word is loaded, and it was quite surprising for me to find that out in the course of getting to know Poland a bit better. The Polish jokes thing. I wonder, that must have been a little bit traumatic as a kid.
Yes,
Was it something?
probably.
Was it something that, because it sounds like you had a pretty soft landing in terms of going to church and kielbasa and all the rest of it?
Mhm.
Uh, is it part of the reason why you decided to move to Europe? You lived in Poland for a few years. You're now in Spain.
No, I just like Europe. Like I remember as a kid, I used to visit Poland a lot, and I loved it. It was great. I loved spending my summers in Poland. It was like, it was always my dream. I was like, man, I wish one day I could live in Poland, right? It's like the Polish dream. It's like the other way around. And that was always something because, like, already, I guess, like, it was kind of confusing as a child because my life, like, I didn't really understand like the world, I guess, because at home we were Polish and then in the outside world we were American. And I didn't realize how different these things were until later, right? And then, I mean, obviously there's a language, right? Because there's the language and then the culture as well. And as I've gotten older, I've realized like what's so different about these cultures. And then also how language plays a role as well as to the way we think or perceive the world. And this is exactly why I started my YouTube channel. Um, but I never, even though I was Polish, I was like not living in Poland, and even though a lot of my parents, like all my parents' friends this day, are Polish, so I was surrounded by this, but I felt like I was missing out on like the true Polishness, the
Yeah.
essence, and I thought, wow, I visited Poland a lot, but I've never lived there, like for real lived there. So that was always something I wanted to do. And then my sister came to Poland for university, and I came to visit her, and I liked it a lot. So I just stayed for a while, and that's it.
So I want to pick up on something you talked about, something that fascinates me.
Mm,
Do you feel like you're a different person when you speak in one of the two languages that you're
yeah,
fluent in?
yeah, I think so.
Break that down, because for some people who aren't bilingual, that might be quite a surprising thing to hear. I completely agree. You think differently. Uh,
Yeah,
how does it look for you?
yeah. So I'd be curious to hear from your perspective because I always thought about this as that way: is when you speak two languages, you have two personalities. But then I read that a lot of that has to do with being bicultural as well, right? So
Yeah.
it's not because, and again, I have no idea. This is just what I've heard recently. I'm sure you could provide more insight since you learned Polish as an adult, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And so, I think that because I was operating with these languages like simultaneously as a child growing up, it's like it was almost like a different path, right? So, like, for example, Polish people are very direct, very blunt, and they don't care about your feelings. All right, like they don't. Like they just say it how it is, right? And Americans, they really care about your feelings. They are overly concerned about your feelings, right? Like they are like they won't even say that someone died. They say someone passed away. Oh, passed away. Ooh, we're afraid of reality, but Polish people, they're like, yeah, he's dead, and they don't care. That's just how it is. So there's no sugarcoating in Polish. So, for example, if I was interacting with an American and they said something rude, I would think, ugh, what a rude person, what a jerk. But if I was interacting with a Polish person, they said that exact same thing, I would be like, Polish people, am I right?
It's fascinating how plastic the brain is, that it's able to just switch so effortlessly between those two. And there's people with multiple cultures, so Trinidadian and Polish and all that kind of stuff. So it can take many different levels. Dave, what's the biggest thing you love about Poland?
Polish people.
That was the right answer, guys.
No, it's true. It's true. So I think Polish people are like fascinating. I mean, because if Poland was like the US, then why would I go to Poland? Like it's like, what's the point? So it's the how different Polish people are compared to, let's say, Americans. So yeah, I mean, I could expand on that, but that's the general answer.
Yes. Well, I think you've hit my sweet spot, because I couldn't agree more. They're just fantastic, aren't they? But for better or worse. What's the thing that annoys you about Polish people, though, Dave?
Just how I think like I think I have like a love-hate relationship with Polish people. Is that they are that they are so direct, and sometimes you're like, okay, I definitely appreciate that. Other times you're like, they're terrible. Why are they so mean? So one thing that shocked me as an adult, because I used to visit a lot as a child, but as an adult, I did not realize how unfriendly Polish people appear on the surface, right? I had no idea, because I had to learn. I grew up with a Polish family, so I grew up that way. And then as an adult, I had to totally change my mentality to fit into American society. And then I went to Poland, and then everything I learned or changed about myself, I was like, oh my God, what the, I remember I was walking with my grandma. I was like 23 years old. And we were walking this little town, small town of Poland, 20,000 people, walking down a street. And some people walked by, and I was like, "Ah, dzień dobry," and they said "dzień dobry" also. And then my grandma was like, "How do you know those people?" And I'm like, "What? I don't know them." And she's like, "Why do you say "dzień dobry" to them?" And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Why wouldn't I?" And she's like, "Huh." And then later, like a week later, she was just like, David, like smiling is just not that popular here.
Action head Obi.
And I was like, "What? Nie jest popularne? Like uśmiechanie? What?" So it was very. I had never heard anyone say that smiling wasn't popular, so that was shocking.
It's so funny. When I'm in the US, I was there in February, and everyone's so friendly, and there's the little Polish, I don't know, Polish parrot on my shoulders going, what does this person want from me that they're being so
Yeah,
friendly? And that comes from that
yeah,
basic belief that something's not quite here. Dave,
yeah.
I'll really, it's not about me today. I want to find out more about you, but I enjoy saying "dzień dobry" to elderly people as they walk down the street, just to see the shock on their face as this total stranger comes from nowhere and says hello to them. I've been training my daughter to do the same thing, because obviously the
Good.
Babja kid dynamic. It's a great icebreaker.
Mm,
Describe Poland in one word, please, Dave.
Polish.
Oh,
I don't know.
understood.
In one word, it's true. It is Polish.
Oh, he's
It's,
got me
it's,
there. I don't have
it's
a. I don't...
I would say Polish AF.
Hmm.
Mm.
Associated football. No, let's not go there. Okay.
Yeah, let's not go there. We're not allowed to say that here.
Least favorite Polish food.
I don't think I have one. I love all Polish food. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Flaki.
Why? Yeah, I love Flaky.
Okay. There must be something. Least favorite. So it's on a declining scale.
I don't know, man. I mean, I That's all we ate as a child. Like I didn't like I am like I never ate Italian food growing up. You know what I mean? My American friends are like shocked by this, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not Italian, dude. Like we didn't have Italian immigrants in Poland, right? We didn't have. We moved from the '80s to to America. There was no Italian food.
So Gołąbki and bigos at home in the US as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we didn't stop being Polish when we moved there. You know, it was like a good 10 years where we were like Polish AF. You know.
Because there is that other type of immigrant that maybe not from that generation of immigrants, but those that left Poland and kind of just wanted to put it behind them and moved on from the culture.
But we couldn't. It haunted us.
What about
There was no getting away.
what about Polish history? Are you interested in the subject? And how did your parents talk to you about what was going on in Poland at the time?
Well, I don't know about what was going on at the time because I think in that sense they did let go of that because they were like, yeah, we don't, you know. But I mean, you can't not be like culturally, you can't stop being Polish like this, right? But as far as the rest, they don't really care. To this day, my dad is like, I'm an American now. Like I don't care about what's going on in Poland. But as far as history, like ever since I feel like if you're a Polish person, like other Polish people will never allow you to forget Polish history. So first of all, I love history and I studied history. All right. But unfortunately, nobody cares about Poland in America. So I had to learn all this stuff on my own. But even as a child, even being 6 years old, I remember my parents telling me about like the death camps and the Nazi invasion, and then how the Soviets invaded, and like like a few weeks after the Nazis, and then like the partitions of Poland, and then the communist times, and how my parents had to wait in line all day, and the old people took their place, and they came back, and they were they didn't even know what was going to be in the store, and you were lucky if you had vinegar, and stuff like that. So this is like my childhood is hearing about the sad history of Poland.
I find it's just fascinating because it's one of those unique things. It's maybe not unique to being Poland, but there is this strong sense of carrying the narrative on. You touched on it, something which is interesting for me, which is what is the average level of knowledge about Poland in the US? Speaking very broadly and generally here.
I don't know. Nothing.
Kielbasa?
It depends where you're. If you're in the north, in the northeast, where there are a lot of Polish people, because I've lived in a few states. I've lived in Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Florida. In the northeast, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, yeah, you might have kielbasa, but they say like kielbasi, like, hey, you guys want a kielbasi? So we. It's pretty terrible. And that's pretty, and maybe pierogi, although they would say pierogis. And that's about it, and then like Polish jokes. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So
guys, don't say pierogis, okay? It's guaranteed to annoy a Polish person because it's already in the plural.
I know.
Dave, you started publishing some videos on YouTube about your life, explaining what it was like to be in Poland. They're fun to watch because you're just nice to watch as a person. I'm sure people have got that from this interview. I did like the other day a meme video you did about the meme in Poland. We don't say X, we say Y, and I think this is beautiful. Maybe some foreign people living in Poland, they didn't quite pick up on this. Can you just tell us what this was, and maybe you can give us an example, but let the English and the Polish language be relatively
oh man, I don't even remember that video, honestly. I don't know. I mean, I guess my channel is in Polish, so I guess I don't really take that into consideration about people who don't speak Polish. But yeah, I guess the point of it was, and I'm sure people have seen these, it's just these like quotes where people are like I don't even have. Maybe you can help me out. I totally forgot. I made the video and forgot about it.
Oh, classic YouTuber move. It's done. It's published.
I make 4 videos every week, so it's
you're prolific, aren't you? Well, I noticed that I think you had something like 50,000 followers last year, and you're already at top in 150 at the moment, or just over, or just
almost at 150.
That's pretty strong growth, dude. There's lots of YouTubers of let's just say it's our ilk. If I'm going to describe myself as a YouTuber, which is probably debated, be quite happy about that. Do you have grand ambitions for the channel? Where do you want to take it? And also, how do people react to it? Because you're trying to present, a mixed US Polish view. You talk about subjects, quite difficult subjects, for example, policing in the US, something you talked about quite recently. It's a live subject. How do people respond to what you're doing? Clearly, judging by the subs, it's heading in a very nice direction.
Yeah, so as far as I can see, majority of people like my videos. But of course, I think like the channel, can be controversial. Often I make a video and I'm just like, oh man, I'm gonna make someone mad about this video. That's for sure. When I started this channel, I wanted to like hit upon these topics that were important to me, that were like obvious to me, that like these differences, these cultural differences. And but then soon I kind of got a little discouraged because some people didn't like it, and there's, how could you say that, blah blah blah. And then eventually I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want, and if people don't like it, that's too bad. But I'm just going to be myself and talk about the way I see it. I think that when you grew up with two cultures, you're able to kind of see each culture through a different lens. Like I think I was always surprised. Like for example, people that I typically get along with best are children of immigrants, because it's like we've been through the same thing, right? More or less. And especially if they're Polish children of immigrants, right? In the US, but not just in the US, but it's like you understand this dynamic that it's like, what is life, man? Like what is reality? Like how do you view reality when you're like in between these two cultures, these two languages? And then you're just like, my parents are weird. And then like you go to your home country and you're like, oh no, everyone is just like this here in this country. Oh, okay, I see. So I don't know where I was going with this, but
I've also meandered a little bit. We're talking about the reaction to your films and the area you're topping. Well, you've already talked about language, and you're helping Poles understand how to pronounce words. Dude, you even had a little brief foray into teaching British English with quite an amusing British accent. How to say, you're right?
yeah, you're right.
You're right?
You're right. Yeah, okay.
There's clearly an interest in learning English. So, what's your advice for Poles wanting to learn English, and also what's your advice for English-speaking people or foreigners wanting to learn Polish?
Well, I'll start with Polish people wanting to learn English or speak English. I mean, I think like it depends where you live, but if you live in a big city in Poland, there are so many people who are not Polish that speak English. So just find those people and spend time with them. There's like things on Facebook you can find, like language exchange groups. Like there's a lot of people who are wanting to practice with you, and like you can speak Polish to them and they'll speak English to you. So as just start hanging out with people who speak English. But other than that, I would say don't be shy. Don't worry. Don't be self-conscious. I'm amazed how well Polish people in Poland speak English. Polish people in Poland speak better English than Polish people in America, who have been there for 30 years. Okay, so you guys are doing good. Trust me. You don't have to worry about it. Just speak it, and don't be shy. But obviously, yeah, and then pay attention to how native speakers are speaking. So that's the general. That's like the basic, right? And then obviously, if you need to dive in deeper. But if you're a foreigner, let's say learning Polish, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know. I've never had to learn Polish, so I'd imagine that's hard. So good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, it's a work in progress on many fronts. I think everything you just said is absolutely applicable. Basically the principles around learning a language, doesn't matter whether it's Spanish, I don't know, some sort of Aztec language. It's all comes back to the same root. You touched on something which I think is interesting there around Poles' slight lack of faith in themselves. This is a subject that I like coming back to because it interests me. You're obviously this mixed multicultural, by identity style thing. Do you have a little bit of that insecurity in you somehow? How does it manifest itself?
Yeah. So, like I said, one thing is that like, you got to remember, it really wasn't until I was like 18 and I moved out and I started to spend time on my own around Americans that I realized how Polish I was. Although at the time, it wasn't that I knew I was Polish. I just knew that like something was not, like I knew that I was different, and I just thought it was like my parents or my upbringing. But now I look at it, I'm like, nah, I was just really Polish, and it was shocking to see how different Americans were, how, let's say, confident they appeared, how outgoing they were, how like easily they were able to go into a situation and be like, hey, what's up, guys, how's it going, and like just talk to people. And then I was just like, why am I such a weirdo, so I think like yeah, so I think a lot of it is just, yeah, like this, like my dad tells me when he was a kid, he said he was like just terrible in school. Like you didn't speak until you were spoken to. Like the teacher's job was just to like crush your spirit, just be like, "Ugh, everyone make fun of this loser because he didn't know the answer." You know what I mean? It was, so
Oh,
like that was like the way he perceived, childhood in communist Poland. So I mean, again, I wasn't there. I don't know, but I think about that, and I think that there's, perhaps I'm sure it's changing, but I'm guessing that historically there's been a lack of positive reinforcement in Poland.
and maybe a surfeit, maybe just a bit too much in the US. I think the Britain's somewhere in
Perhaps, yeah,
between. Uh,
yeah, that's true. That's a different story, but you're right. Yeah, perhaps,
Guys, let us
perhaps.
know in the comments. Do you think Poles are insecure, which is not the word that Dave used, but maybe summarizes it in short, and why? Dave, if you could change one thing about Poland, let's imagine that you become King Dave. You're elected because it's YouTube, baby. That's all
Yeah.
about the number of subs. You have the highest. You become the king YouTuber of Poland and the king of Poland. What would you change about the country?
I would change the weather. And let me tell you how I would do that. All right. So
Okay.
first, what I would do is I would like, meet with all of my like generals or all my like people. And what we would do is we'd find a country, like a warm country. I'm not sure which one, maybe like Venezuela or Colombia, or maybe somewhere in Africa, but it's got to have like really nice warm weather where it's sunny, right? And what we would start out by doing is we would open the borders to that country, but just one country. And we say, hey, you want to come to Poland? Come to Poland. And we make it a really good deal where if they come, they get like 10,000 zloty a month. It's just like they get a house, they get everything, right? And then when over half of their population comes to Poland, what I would do is I would take all 39 million Polish people and we would move to that country, right? Because we'd make a deal with that country to where like, okay, they can come here and be citizens in Poland, but they have to give up their original citizenship. But Polish people could go and get their citizenship too in that country. So then all 39 million people would move to that warm country and take over that country. And it would be like, hey, you can have the old Poland. This is new Poland. And we change the name and we'd make that warm, tropical, palm trees, just beautiful country. And that would be the new Poland. That's what I would do.
Man, Dave has given this some thought, guys. I got to tell you, I've had different answers to that question over the course of Heart of Poland. That one has to be the best thought out. Winters can get a bit draining, can't they? And they do seem to drag on for quite a long time. If you were locked in a prison cell, Dave, let's say you were King Dave of Poland for a bit, but then due to some, let's call them financial irregularities, you're prosecuted and taken down. Who would you want to be locked up in a cell with and why? Polish person.
I don't know. The ghost of Pope John Paul II.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't really know that many Polish people, honestly, like famous Polish people. So,
Hey, it could
yeah,
be Babcha. It could be, it could be someone else that you knew from your past. It could be alive or dead.
well,
Anything.
it definitely wouldn't be like any babchas because then they'd be like, "Oh, did you eat already today?" And they're like, "Get out of here! We live in the same cell." Like, "Oh, how was your poop? Was it a regular poop? Like, leave me alone." You know? So, I don't know. I don't know. Someone cool, I guess. Someone who's like a cool person. I don't know. I have no idea. Honestly. I don't know how to answer that.
All right, so Dave, maybe we can make a little bet that as you climb up the YouTube charts, and by the way, guys, I did some homework. Dave's channel is 1,033 top channel in Poland, which is actually really impressive.
Wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little thing I found it online, and you
Mm.
can. I'm not going to say, oh man, it's nothing worse than when two YouTubers get together because it's like, how many subs you got? So, yeah, I'm not close to where Dave is. So, as you
Yeah.
climb up the charts, Dave, maybe we can come back and have a chat another time, and
Yeah,
you can give the answer to that question when you've had a thought about your prison mate.
sure.
I was about to say it in Polish. Let's obviously hope that your star rises and doesn't descend and you don't end up in a prison cell. What else would you like to tell, Dave, foreign people? For example, if someone was American and they met a Polish girl online or something like that, and they were thinking of moving to the country, what
Mm.
would you advise them to do before they came, and what kind of beliefs and approach should they take to moving to the country of Poland? Because it's a
Mm.
different culture to the UK, and even more different, I think, to the US.
Yeah, wow. There's probably a lot of stuff. I think first thing I would ask is like, where do they live? I think for me, I spent half my life in Florida, so like the weather change was absolutely shocking. Like I hate that. It's the how dark it is. I would say, all right, just say goodbye to the sun. Although maybe you Brits, you're used to that. You don't have sun every day. So for you, it was like paradise coming to Poland.
Double the number of sun hours and half the number of rain. So I'm in heaven here, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So me coming from Florida, it's like, man, it was rough. Like I was just like, why is there no sun? What is happening? So
And
uh,
when did you come? When you moved for good, did you come in the middle of summer or was it in the middle of winter?
it was September. September. Yeah.
So you had a little brief burst of happiness, and then it was just 6 months of darkness.
Yeah, it was truly shocking. Like I had not experienced such weather in like a decade or more. So for me, it was like I didn't realize places like that exist, actually. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. Like I was not. I remember it was like October and it was like 10 degrees Celsius. And I was like, why is it so cold? I was like freezing. I was like, what is going on here? I saw like people walking around with babies. I'm like, why are they taking their babies outside? It's so cold.
Man,
So,
by February, if it's 10 degrees, just like, oh man, it's so warm. So fantastic. So pay attention to the weather and be ready for a big shock. That's tip number one. What else could you offer potentially
uh,
people?
is that like don't try to smile at people. I don't know. Like I would just say just if you're especially if you're American, like you have to be aware that the culture is totally different in that regard. Like I said before earlier, if you know someone or you're like a friend of a friend, it's cool. Like everyone's like great, like super nice people. But it's like the yin and the yang. It's amazing because I think like Polish people are such great hosts. Like Americans, yeah, not good hosts. You go over there and then they don't offer you anything, right? So you have to be like, hey, could I have some water? And they're like, oh my God, I forgot to offer you something. And you're like, all right, that's cool. But if you go to a Polish person's house, they're like, "Oh, kawa, herbata," like tea, coffee. They'll give you like slippers, like they have guest slippers, and then they'll give you food, everything, right? So they're like the best. They like the best, what is it called? Hospitality. But if you don't know them, well, then you're basically nothing to them. So you don't matter. Like, in the US, you acknowledge people and you smile and you say hi. But in Poland, they're just like, I want nothing to do with you. I don't know you. So that is shocking, I think, for an American, and especially if you don't know anyone, if you're just going to Poland and you don't have any friends, then Poland might seem like a dark, desolate, depressing country where everyone hates you.
But of course, as you peel the lid on that can, it turns out to be really quite fantastic. What about if you're looking for work in Poland, Dave? You're from the US. Let's say that, I mean, obviously you spoke Polish, so it's
Mm,
completely different ball game.
yeah.
But if someone's kind of just come out of university and they've got a bit of experience, but they're not quite sure whether they're going to make it, what kind of avenues of work are available, and what would you recommend people do?
Yeah, so I think that if you only speak English, well, then you're probably only going to be able to get jobs related to the English language. So, like teaching or maybe copywriting or something like that. But of course, for example, I had a good friend of mine who was a computer engineer, and he got a job in IT in Poland very easily. So if you're doing like IT stuff, you can get a job no problem. You don't need to speak Polish. As long if you just speak English, you're good. But other jobs, I don't know. I don't know. I think like that's the only thing that I'm aware of, So yeah,
Well, there's always the English language to fall back on, for better or worse,
yeah.
for English teachers. And of course, Dave, you're adding your brick to the wall of helping Poles to speak better English, American English, and British English, which I think is very jolly good. Oh boy, I did enjoy
Yeah.
that episode. Watching that episode made me giggle just a little bit. Dave, any final parting thoughts for the viewers of Heart of Poland, the best
Uh,
premier English language program about Poland in the world?
I don't know. I guess thanks for watching and thanks for having me on your channel. Yeah, if I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you like it, check out my channel, Dave's Ameryki. Um, but otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I guess. Oh, here's what I would say. One last thing to Polish people is like, why do you guys go to warm countries during the summer? Like, wouldn't it make sense to go to warm countries during the winter? Like, Poland is great during the summer. Just stay there. But then go to like, I don't know, a warm country during the winter when it's terrible in Poland. Why are you going to a warmer country when it's already warm in Poland during the summer? It doesn't make sense.
Dave, you've hit the nail on the head. This has been one of the best interviews we've ever had on Heart of Poland. And guys, you can check out 3 other really interesting discussions from completely different perspectives. An interview with a fellow Polish American, not quite so Polish, a bit more American, Ryan Sokash. Title is, I hate it when people ask me that question. Which question did I ask? And which question did he hate? You'll have to check it out. The link to that film is in the description below this film. Also, the crazy Mexican staying właśnie chciałem powiedzieć właściwie staying in America or North America. No, it's not, is it? God, I was somewhere on the equator. Here, my geography is coming out. David Huerta, also known as Cheeto Finer. I talked to him about what it's like to be a Mexican in Poland, and an interview with British-Polish YouTuber Stefan Thompson, which is titled, I Cried Like a Baby. To find out how Stefan cried like a baby and how his life was put at risk, not in Poland, somewhere else, you'll have to check out the 3 links that I've got below this episode. But just like Dave said, I encourage you now to go and check out his channel. There's a bit in English, so you can go and watch a bit of Dave. Dave's Ameryki. He's there. Find him. He's a fantastic chap, and he's helping Poles a lot. So, Dave, thank you very much. We'll say goodbye to Dave, my friends. And this, I want him to come back and wave. I apologize. Got rid of you too. Papa.
Bye, guys. See ya.
Guys, write to us, please, in the chat. Did you like the subjects that we talked about today? Did you agree with some of the, I'd say even maybe a little bit controversial opinions of Dave? Do you agree with his provocative question at the end about going on summer holidays in the middle of the Polish summer? Frankly, judging by the level of rain we've had over the last couple of days, I can kind of understand why you would. But at the same time, those winter months do get draining. I came to Poland to live in October. And in Britain, because the winter's quite mild, you just kind of go like this when it's cold and you walk like this. And I didn't have any winter clothes, so I can well understand what Dave's saying. It wasn't quite Florida, Poland, but it was pretty brutal those first few months. Well, unfortunately, thanks to climate change, Polish winters aren't quite as savage as they used to be. So I encourage you to visit thefirstnews.com. It is the #1 source of English language news about Poland. You'll find in-depth articles and interviews, stories from Polish business to Polish culture, what it's like to live here, with, in my opinion, some of the best journalists working and living in Poland. There's nothing quite like it. It's thefirstnews.com, and I'm so very proud to have, over the course of these 85-ish episodes, interview so many interesting people like Dave, because there's nothing quite like Heart of Poland. It's the impossible mission to discover the heart of Poland. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to encourage you to share this episode with anyone you think might be interested, to tag somebody who might want to find out more about Dave's story, to let us know what you think about the subjects we talked about today, and more than anything, to go and check out those really interesting conversations that I mentioned earlier with David Huerta, with Ryan Sokash, and with Stefan Thompson. So do your bit, play your part, and make the Heart of Poland the #1 show, Poland #1. So I'll see you again next week for another episode live of Heart of Poland. Adios.